Hillary Clinton in the general election can beat John McCain. She beats him in Florida. She beats him in Ohio. She beats him in Missouri. This is about winning the election on November 4th and helping the down ballot races. She has won those 20 congressional districts that are key to us winning to keep the House of Representatives. Nothing is impossible. What tomorrow some new could happen. Nothing's impossible. You were talking to Terry McAuliffe. I don't believe anything in life is impossible.
Welcome back to Hardball. You may have thought that the hot governor's race in Virginia was about Democrat Terry McAuliffe versus Republican Ken Cuccinelli. But it turns out it's actually about Hillary Clinton. And that's because Republicans are using the Virginia race to test drive attacks against Hillary ahead of her potential run for president in 2016. America Rising, a super PAC made up of several embittered former Romney aides, is the same group that created the website StopHillary2016.org. They told Hardball today that, quote, Terry McAuliffe shares some of his most unappealing attributes, trading on influence, serial exaggeration, D.C. insiderism with Hillary Clinton. This is according to Executive Director Tim Miller. He has a long record of shady insider dealing involving the Clintons, their family, and hangers-on, including the current investigation into the car company he and Hillary's brother are executives in. To the extent that Terry is damaged with voters based on these issues in Virginia, this fall you can see how it could hurt Hillary in 2016. Well, Tim Miller is with that super PAC, America Rising. Neera Tanden could be considered a Clinton insider. She's president of the Center for American Progress and has known Hillary for 20 years, working with her in the White House, the Senate, and on her 2008 presidential campaign. Tim, if I'm Terry McAuliffe, maybe I like the linkage that you're providing, because look at her numbers. Her numbers, not just in Virginia, but all across the country, are incredibly strong. As a matter of fact, in the state of Virginia alone, Hillary Clinton is leading 5 prospective Republican presidential candidates. The only one that comes within a margin of error is New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, whom Clinton leads by 1 point. According to PPP's latest poll in Virginia, Clinton beats Jeb Bush in Virginia by 5 points, and 3 other potential rivals trail Clinton by double digits in Virginia. Hillary outperforms the state's current governor, Bob McDonnell, by 10 points, and she thoroughly trounces Florida Senator Marco Rubio and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul by 12 points each. Respond to that, please.
Well, it's pretty early for these polls, Michael. I'll give you one example about why the Clintons are damaging Terry McAuliffe in Virginia right now. Terry and Hillary's brother are currently under federal investigation for, among other things, trading on Tony Rodham's name in order to fast-track visas from China for their boondoggle of a car company. Now, this was front-page news on the New York Times and the Washington Post this past weekend. And it's going to be a problem for Terry in Virginia, and I think it's also going to raise questions for Hillary as she begins to campaign for him in September. Why is she letting her brother lobby this administration at all? It's the typical Clinton and McAuliffe trading on their D.C. connections.
Tim, do you hold out some hope that if you can make this somehow a referendum on the former Secretary of State and not on the respective Republican and Democratic candidates for governor, that if you're successful and if you defeat Terry McAuliffe, that the former Secretary of State will reconsider her plans for 2016?
No, look, I think that the 2013 Virginia governor's race is a referendum on Terry McAuliffe and Terry McAuliffe's record of being a D.C. huckster who trades on his influence in order to help his friends get access to people in power, particularly the Clintons. But I think to the extent that Terry is not successful and turns voters off because of that track record in Virginia in 2013, when the election's over in November, we're going to glean a lot of lessons for that can be used in a potential campaign if Hillary decides to run in 2016.
Neera, if I were running for office and my opponent wanted to tie me to someone who had a 61% favorability rating across the country and a 33% unfavorability rating, and that's according to ABC and the Washington Post, I think I'd be pretty thrilled with that.
Yeah, no, I think Terry is looking forward to his event with Hillary at the end of this month. And I would say that, Tim Miller and America Rising are part of a, effort that has been going on for years of conservative activists really milking Republican donors at the behest of their dislike of Hillary Clinton, because she's a fighter for what she believes in. And, you know, they've been trying to fight her for 20 years, 30 years, and they've failed each and every time. And so I look at this and I recognize that this is just another effort to raise money off of people's anger. You know, there's a small group of people who dislike Hillary. And what's been heartwarming about the last several years is the strong support Hillary has across this nation from Republicans, Independents, and Democrats.
Will you nevertheless pay close attention to what's going on in Virginia so as to give some insight into what sticks and what doesn't stick in terms of negativity with an eye toward her future?
Look, you know, I think 2013 and 2016 are really almost decades apart from each other. Terry McAuliffe is running a race. I think if people are concerned about hucksterism and insiderism, you know, they pay a lot of attention to Ken Cuccinelli and the investigations that are going on with actual donations that he's had that he should be returning. And so I think, you know, but this race is a race on its own. And I think the lessons that we're going to learn is that these right-wing attacks that have been going on for decades will fail because people have their own views of Hillary. She has been a leader. People have experience with her as Secretary of State, as a senator. And, you know, I think that these attacks have failed before and they'll fail again.
You know, Tim Miller, I wonder how much ground there is that's up for grabs with regard to the former Secretary of State, former First Lady. It seems like opinions both ways are so entrenched when it comes to the Clintons.
Well, let me tell you this. I think there's a lot of ground to make up because if you remember what happened in 2007, Hillary might have been really popular at the beginning of that campaign, but once she becomes a political animal again, her numbers are going to come back down to earth. And the Democratic Party voters rejected her in 2008, in large part for the exact same reasons why voters are going to reject Terry McAuliffe. They didn't like the selling of the Lincoln bedroom. They didn't like people who have been involved in the D.C. morass where they help people who have big money get access to people in power and give them special deals. This is the way the Clintons work. McAuliffe has been central to that for the past two decades. It didn't work in 2008, and that's why it's not going to work in 2016.
I think there's a sense that this has all been litigated already. You know, I think you've got an uphill climb in that regard, and the people, you know, they've heard it before, and however they come down on it, they've made up their minds.
With all due respect, I don't think people in the Democratic Party were listening to conservative activists, right-wing groups. They were, you know, that was a tough race, obviously. But what's really remarkable about where we are now is how much strong support Hillary has, not just amongst Democrats, but she has very strong,
To be
rocket high,
continued.
but independent.
Thank you both. Tim Miller.